Councillor Ward.
Councillor Ward.
And lateness from the Mayor. Any more apologies? No? Right, so I'll put that.
I'll move.
Move.
I'll second it if you're fine.
I'll move, seconded by Councillor, and all in favour?
Aye.
Oh, carried. Conflicts of interest. No conflicts of interest. Confirmation of minutes. Move for that.
Moved.
Move Councillor Bryan, second Councillor Redmond. Matters arising from the minutes. I've just got one wee item there that I raised about the staff looking at some of the plantings around to see whether they're going to be looked at or what have you. So I just noticed that's not in the minutes, so I just wondering whether that could be added. That was raised last time.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I think that's on page 8 and diligent that the comment was attributed to Councillor Bryan. I wondered if, I realised, I remember you making it, but I can't recall if Councillor Bryan did. Page 8.
Yeah, I raised it, but anyway, that's something I think was important in there. So no other matters arising. Deputation presentations, we've got nil. So we'll move on to 5.1, commencement public consultation, remembering stormwater drainage and watercourse protection bylaw 2024. And we've got Janet and Jason to present. Thank you.
Morning. This report seeks Utilities and Roading Committee approval to undertake public consultation on the amended waimakariri District Council Stormwater Drainage and Watercourse Protection Bylaw 2024 using the special consultative procedure. The Stormwater Drainage and Watercourse Protection Bylaw 2024 is intended to update and replace the 2018 version. The present review of the bylaw is occurring prior to the usual mandatory 10-year review requirement. The existing form of the bylaw in force from 2018 is no longer considered to be appropriate. The 2018 version does not cover all the operating situations encountered by the council in managing its systems. The council is required to approve all discharges into stormwater networks by the 1st of January 25, including discharges from high-risk sites. The proposed updates to the bylaw will enable it to legally manage these activities. The stormwater network discharge consents in place for Rindora, Kaiapoi, and Woodland, and with Oxford expected later this week, require the council to over time achieve water quality standards, which now are mandatory to discharges from the stormwater network into receiving environment. The updated bylaw will be the legal mechanism enabling the council to apply the network consent requirements where they affect discharges from private properties. The bylaw will authorize the council management of the quality of these discharges through pollution prevention plans, site-specific stormwater management plans, and erosion and sediment control plans. Staff are proposing the following consultation program to review the bylaw. If the committee approves the draft bylaw in consultation today, Thursday, 20th of June, would be open for public submission. That period opens, and notification letters sent to key agencies and organizations, bylaw documents available on council website, and service centers and libraries. That period would close on the 29th of July, and then there would be a hearing still to be confirmed, but anticipated to be 25th of September. And then on the 4th of November, there will be a hearings panel recommendation to the full council where the bylaw comes into force. This report is requesting the approval of the attached proposed stormwater drainage watercourse protection bylaw and statement of proposal for public consultation using the special consultative procedure outlined in the Local Government Act of 2002. We're also asking to appoint Councillor Williams portfolio holder, as well as 2 other councilors to give submissions on the proposal and to recommend decisions to the council. I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions? Questions, Councillor Redmond?
Just one question, Jason. On page 79 of Diligent, the cultural report, E at the top of the page refers to a resource consent for drain cleaning. Is that something we currently require, or is that something new that recommended?
So the council has a drainage maintenance consent in place for a few years now that we hold with Environment Canterbury, and so the drain cleaning throughout the district for all of the council managed drains is undertaken under that global consent requirement, and you can follow that up with us quarterly through meetings with our compliance teams here at the council.
And how long does that global consent last for?
I think that is 15 years from the top of my head.
Right, quite a long time. So that's not really a change.
No, and it is all in place.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of following on from that, on page 40 of ours, page 15 of your report, 13.1.2. Under activities requiring approval, you've got, on one hand, 13.1.2 says basically that you can't use any modification of the bank structure, including widening, deepening, damming, diverting, replanting, etc., including use of herbicide, etc. Okay, so you can't spray it, which we don't really want people spraying drains. But and then the very next one says kind of that you can't plant it either. So you got to be able to do something. So the erection of a structure or placement of any material or planting of any vegetation. It says e.g. tree or hedge. Now, does it specifically mean tree or hedge, like tall growing things as opposed to, say, Caraxeca? Or should that be fleshed out a little bit more? Because it's otherwise saying you can't spray it, but you also cannot plant it, but don't let your sediment run into it either. So that's kind of difficult.
I think what, is it 13.13?
Yes.
I think this is specifically no planting if, where there's to impede access of any machinery for maintenance, and if, is that, as far as, we do allow planting, but this is specifically for access from our contractors so that we can maintain that drain and water.
That makes very good sense, but how do people know?
So we are looking at ways to expand the bylaw to the public, and then looking at putting it on limbs and different ways where the public can or have access and are able to where the bylaw is more well known to the public and it can get out there. That we are still working on that, but one of the ideas was putting it on limbs, and part of buying property is making sure that they understand the stormwater bylaws, so that when you do buy a property in our district, you understand the rules and are adjacent to that waterway, you understand the rules with that waterway, and so that we can maintain access to that for maintenance.
That would be fantastic, because we definitely have a situation at the moment where people do not know which waterways that they should be looking after, which ones the council looks after. And I do know that these two provisions actually relate to a council managed watercourse, but sometimes people don't know what that is either. Whether it's council managed, they managed, or whatnot. So I guess maybe then I'm signaling that this is going to require a significant amount of admin for you to figure out where those are and let people know that. So are you aware of the implications of that? So I don't mean to grow you on it. I just thought, oh, there's questions that I, as a rural landholder, and having these conversations with lifestyle block owners for years, These are the kind of conversations we have, and it's just a really
Is there a
great.
question, Councillor?
So my question is, are you aware of the implications of the admin that's gonna come up from this if we set out to map these things, which would be great. You know, tell people what's their responsibility and what's ours, but yeah, that could be a lot of admin.
Yeah, I am aware, we're just at the start of that process, but the main objective is to educate the public on the importance of maintenance of our waterways and the implications that the flooding issues and other issues that arise when we can't access our waterways. So again, at the start of that process, but we'll continue on, make sure that we can get this out to the public.
Perfect, I'm all for it, and I wish you thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sent out a question in the issues and options section 4.8. There's an explanation there about, and it says the council can require the property owner to obtain consent for activity from Environment Canterbury not otherwise required to manage these charges to comply with consent conditions. Just wondering where the responsibility for enforcement actually sits, because this seems to drop down from the land and water plan. So, so are we going to be caught sort of between two stools at times, working out whether we enforce it or whether we refer the issue to ECAN? How do we know what circumstances? Can we sort of take ourselves through that?
I can speak to that. So, Environment Canterbury have better enforcement tools than Waimakariri District Council, so they have abatement notices and infringement fines under Section 15 of the RMA. So when we are required under the Land and Water Regional Plan to manage the discharges from 1st of January 2025 from every kind of site and activity, and when our approval processes aren't working, then we have the memorandum of understanding and the network consent procedures which allow us to transfer that enforcement back to Environment Canterbury, but we have to follow the procedures in the bylaw and the network consent conditions before we can do that.
Okay. So Mr. Chair, just to clarify that, so our processes aren't working. Is that a case that we've been ignored was being something that, so to speak, we can step up to the next?
So with the Section 12 in the bylaw, when the property owner doesn't comply with its pollution prevention plan or site-specific stormwater management plan or erosion and sediment control plan or any other written approval that the council has provided, then we undertake like a notice under the bylaw, which is with our bylaw enforcement, all that we can do. We can't issue infringement fines, and then if the property owner still doesn't comply, then we refer them to Environment Canterbury.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, thank you. Any more questions? Have we got anybody who wants to put their hand up for these two positions then? All speak at once.
Well, overseas.
Overseas.
Well, there's the, sorry, I just haven't got one.
That's, I'll go back to there.
I'll just
That's the, bylaw, here in
It's the stormwater and drainage.
What about, I'll put my name forward if there's other colleagues.
Councillor Redland.
about Councillor Ward. She would, I know she's an apology today, but something she probably would be interested in. I'm happy to move. Who else would it be? You, Councillor?
What about Councillor Fulton, because you're involved in it.
Well, yeah.
Oh goodness, how many are we looking for?
Two.
I would refuse.
Well, that's
Does
it.
Excuse me, Mr.
Does it have to be you and I?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a member of this
No,
committee, does it?
no.
Well, yeah,
Well, I think
otherwise, committee member.
Well, I think we've got two people here willing at the moment, so, if you want to eat, Councillor Ward.
no, I just was. I thought that we were struggling.
We were, so,
We can have three. Why don't we move? I'll move the three. Councillor Williams, Councillor Redmond, Mealings and Fulton. You can have more than two.
Was Vicky putting her hand up or?
I was just gonna move these two. I'm happy to sit on it, but I am just aware that it may clash with the district plan.
Would you see you having would you rather not? So I'll just move those two.
If that guy crosses the table from me, would love to sit on it. I
Further,
think
you're
that's a better,
Right,
that's
so-
a good proxy.
I'll move the recommendation with Councillor Redmond and Fulton.
And I'll second that. So, I'll move that. No discussions on it?
Oh, just briefly, just to say that it's an important piece of work, and it's really good that we've got colleagues who are prepared to put their names forward. It's an important consideration. So I look forward to hearing their consideration and recommendations in due course.
So, nothing from me, so I'll put that all in favour. Yes, carried, thank you. Right, so we move on to 5.2, private well study. So we've got Sophie, please. Okay.
Morning, this is a report of information which is for a study into nitrogen private wells which has been carried out since 2019, starting in two areas, Eton and Cust, and then moving on to look at the 2 areas that was in 2021 with Swannanoa and Carlton. So the study this year was similar to previous years. We found one well that was above the drinking water limit, really bad, but other than that, a lot of supplies were below the nitrate limit, and the medians for the wells were very similar to previous years. There wasn't any trend analysis carried out this year, so we hope to carry out trend analysis with almost six years data this year. So, but it seems to be pretty stable amongst the wells. People, there's one well that I'm not sure what's happening, which has shown quite a large decrease. That's in the Swannanoa area. So that's I'll look into what might be happening there. But otherwise, pretty much more stability in the other wells. We have a workshop later on today about nitrates in general, groundwater analysis is presenting, just heads up that there might be questions that might be appropriate for that workshop session. And something else that isn't in the report that has, from discussions with Environment Canterbury since it was presented to you, they have a study this spring that they will be carrying out in particularly deep wells of the ear well area. So they're looking at nitrate levels there too. And it is not just in private wells, but some private wells, some public supply wells, some irrigation wells. But some of that data will be of interest to the studies that we'll try to amalgamate it into the report for study next year. Otherwise, we're looking at carrying out the same study with the same participants this spring. And take any questions.
Okay, please, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Sophie, for your ongoing work in this area. You might be aware we've had some ongoing questions, particularly some colleagues, elected members at community board level, asking us whether we could make the booklet more freely available. There seem to be some gaps here, so our own members aren't receiving those books. We haven't seen them. Is there a way we can address this?
Yeah, so what is about to happen is I have a third version of the book that I'm about to update with maps that Environment Canterbury has updated with 3 more years of water quality data, including water quality for Lees Valley for the first time. So I've been waiting for those maps to do the update, and they already now has incorporated together. So as soon as that's ready, then we can do a much bigger push. So the currently the booklet, the second version is used for limbs, for example, who are buying the property. So we're hoping to catch from that way. There hasn't been a big promotion of the booklet. We do have an event, well, I've been invited to speak at an event in July about the information in that booklet to the rural community. So it's like those sort of opportunities will be coming up to try and promote that third version of the booklet.
Councillor Means.
Just good to see the study carrying on from the land and water committee days. Maybe we're getting a little bit more data. It's almost getting useful. Just a question. So I know that we have this kind of delicate dance with the people that supply water for these studies, and there's varying reasons why they do or don't. But what actually happens to sample information from wells that are over half MAV or higher? Like, does that go on their limb, or do they stay confidential, or is that maybe why people aren't fully participating?
So the process when we bring people along for the studies, we do make it aware that any information you do get is on their property file and could be put on their limb. So we have had people who have declined to join the study because of that, or one person who the study didn't take part because they started quality and they didn't take part this year. That does happen, but we do try and front foot that by being upfront if that's something as a public organisation with the WOMA, or the responsibility to provide truthful limbs that that information is provided.
So that explains why the one well owner submitted for minerals and manganese, but not for nitrates, for instance.
No, there was an accident. So there were two bottles in the study. One of the wells for manganese accidentally sent one in, and the other one by that stage, by the time we realised from the lab it was there's no point sending the other bottle in. And they were the last people who were waiting for the sample, and they were already so far behind. It was in January, February. So I've had trouble with that particular sample even getting sent in the past. So unfortunately, once you've started with some wells, you try to keep the same well consistency, and then it gets to a point where you have to maybe say, okay, this might be one to replace. But
fair enough. Thank you for that. Supplementary to that, I'm just regarding that 180 well proposal with ECAN that we've had for quite some time that's never quite gotten into play just yet, and R40. So how many would ECAN ideally be putting their hand up for, or are we talking about splitting these 50-50, or if they were to the number that is recommended for this study?
Yeah, so I did approach ECAN again this year to ask about if they have any ability to take samples every year, and so the Oxford say just a one-off, and that's all they've committed to this year. And unfortunately, they haven't committed to any part of those 180 wells, even though it is one of the targets in the Land and Water Regional Plan that we've set through the ZIPA process. The Water Zone Committee asked for this to be a measure, and then to actually know whether we're achieving that measure of that target or not, we do need to sample all private wells. And so the ECAN has committed beyond that one-off study this year.
Would there be a more effective way for us to approach them? Perhaps not. You having to say, how about this year? Like perhaps from an elected member point of view, or something like what would be a more useful way to get this to happen?
Yeah, a different approach could be worthwhile trying from government standpoints.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, so this is a received report. I'll move to receive the report. We've got a second for that. Councillor Means. Right, I just thank you for this report. I'd like to stress that this is a private well study, and that all of our council supplies are well under the nitrate levels. So that's good to know our wells like that. So it's important, I think, to stress this is a private well study. So thank you very much. Councillor Mears.
Thank you. Just following on from that, this is a really valuable study, and the longer we manage to keep it going, the more valuable it will be. And I am thankful to the well owners that actually do submit their water for sampling, so that we can actually carry out the study, because otherwise we really have very limited ways of knowing what's actually happening out there in the groundwater landscape. And as we know, nitrate cannot be seen, it can't be smelled, it doesn't have a taste. There's no way to know if you have nitrate in your water unless you test it. And it's really important to raise awareness of that. And I also appreciate that you are revamping the well management book and are looking to put that out a bit more widely, because that is a really topical conversation right now. And people just really need to know the what's and hows and who's and whys really, so, thanks for your work on this and happy to support it.
Thank you. Mayor Gordon?
I also support this and just want to acknowledge that I think our community will value this. We've spent a lot of time in the last few weeks reassuring our community that drinking water is safe and that we do rigorous testing, unlike a politically motivated organisation like Greenpeace. It's absolutely disgraceful what they've been doing out there, and to then find that their own methodology, which they really upset people with, was seriously in question, just underlines the importance of independent, proper checking. And as we have mentioned many times to residents, that if they have concerns, call us and we can give you the right advice about how to manage that. I had a call from the regulator last week, to other Arawai, and they are going to provide some comment that we can use. The current MAV, they are more than comfortable with that, but that's always something that they will continue to review, because obviously water safety is primarily, that is their job and task. It's just, and I think in general, there's more of a role for Te Mata Arawai and a range of other measures like safety of, what is acceptable levels that come from wastewater also, and I think that will help certainly an independent body like that that's providing that evidence, not an organisation that's trying to achieve a political objective. The amount of people that were upset with that, I had a lot of phone calls who were particularly concerned where it was at for their own homes, and I just think when we spend so much effort and time and the work that we do, that organisation could have spoken to us first, and we could have taken them through and perhaps educated them on the process that we go through. As I say, anyone that's got concerns, independently check or raise them with us, and we can provide that advice to them. But this sort of work being undertaken, I think, is important, and thanks Sophie and the team and Jared for all the leadership that goes on in this space.
Councillor Redmond?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be supporting the recommendation also. I agree with Councillor Mealings that the longer the study testing continues, the more valuable it becomes. When I was in private practice, I used to encourage people, when we get a limb and we see what the water supply is, to regularly test their water supply. That advice may have fallen on deaf ears on occasions, but I just wondered if the new brochure that Sophie is producing, whether it could also be distributed to certainly North Canterbury lawyers and possibly even wider afield, to make their legal advisors, when people are purchasing, aware that this is something that we don't do for them, it's something they should do for themselves on a regular basis. So anyhow, it's good, and it'll be interesting to see the results over time and what the trends are. Thank you.
Thank you. No more. Okay. I'd just like to write a reply. I agree 100% with the Mayor on that. There has been some scaremongering out there on our water supplies, but this is a private well study, which is predominantly a lot of shallower wells and what our council supplies are. And I'm very pleased to actually stand up and say our water supply for our council supplies are probably the best in New Zealand, so I'm very happy with that, so thank you very much. So I'll put that, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Sophie. So now we'll move on to correspondence, which we've got nil, so we moved into portfolio updates. So roading, Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These updates come around very quickly. It doesn't seem long since the last one. There have been some updates that I can provide. Road metalling has been carried out on our unsealed roads, and maintenance grading is continuing. And you may have noticed a new machine doing high shoulder removal in the district, and that's underway on a number of unsealed roads. That's probably as great as, but there is a high shoulder machine that has been working in the district recently. Ice gritting is now starting on an as required basis. The resealing program for 24-25 has been developed, and staff are currently inspecting and agreeing to pre-reseal repairs with the contractor, and these repairs will be carried out in the spring. The pavement rehabilitation program is also being developed, and pre-testing of sites to help determine the design is beginning. And over the next month or so, staff will shift their focus onto designing for the 24-25 financial year. Major works, the Waimakariri Gorge Bridge deck replacement is all but complete. The guardrail has been completed on the southern approach, and installation is continuing on the northern approach, which is our side of the bridge. The scaffolding is being removed, and that'll take about 2 weeks to complete. Some additional works were undertaken to clean the beams under the bridge and repair a crack, a non-structural crack, in an abutment. And the deck itself will receive a further reseal in the summer to ensure it remains waterproof. You might recall there was a plywood type wooden decking put over the bridge. There have been some issues with the seal around joints, and that's something that staff will be addressing. It's just unfortunate the cold weather isn't really conducive to sealing at the present time. The Island Road traffic signals have been commissioned, and those works are complete, and I would like to congratulate staff. I think those traffic signals, I know some of us had reservations. I wasn't one of them, but I'm always nervous to see how they work in practice, and I think they're working very well. So I'd like to congratulate staff for the work they've done on design and commissioning those traffic signals. Curb and channel renewal work in Edith Street is now complete. Palmer Street upgrade work is continuing. Ashley Street curb and channel and footpath works are now also complete. The last of the footpath renewal projects has been completed this financial year, and that was the footpath renewal on Douglas Street. Other works, the Double Days footbridge remains closed, and repairs to the pier cap are currently underway. South Belt pavement works adjacent to the new development are now complete. Work is continuing to underground the trunk water main on Townsend Road at the culvert site, and there is going to be an overnight road closure there later this month or early next month for some work to occur. So that will minimise disruption. 16 new permanent flooding signs have been installed in known flooding areas, and these are fold-down signs which are quick and easy to open during the flood event. Work was undertaken to remove tree debris from previous floods which have become stuck around the piers of the Mandeville and Mafeking bridges. There is work coming up to install stormwater and sewer mains through the Blackhead Street, King Street roundabout. This is a continuation of the Ranura sewer upgrade, and the roundabout will need to be closed for approximately 6 weeks from the 1st of July to enable those works to be completed, and there'll be a whole lot of contractors working on there at the same time to try and do that work as quickly as possible. There are a couple of events coming up. Kaiapoi Lights from the 26th to 28th of June, and the Kaiapoi Matariki event is also coming up on the 28th of June. And just a reminder that the Waimakariri Road Safety Working Group meets tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and we get a number of, we call them stakeholders, coming along with safety initiatives and functions and what they've been doing out on the network. So that's it from me.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you for that report. The Court of Bridge, pleasing to see that it's got to the point it is now. With the joins, there's been a contract, as you say. Will there be a redo? And will we have to revisit that in spring and summer? Do you have any information on that? I mean, whose cost?
Maybe something Jared could answer the technical nature, but there is some movement on the bridge, of course, so I don't think it could be entirely unexpected.
So, yes, look, the question that came through about it yesterday. So perhaps, the bridge itself is a steel structure, and it is not entirely rigid. It can't be. So you do have some movement, and also the deck itself, where it sits on the transoms that support it, it's not a perfectly even surface. So in terms of the actual product, the timber decking itself, each plank is structurally sound, and it has got there's been packers used to get them as level as absolutely possible, but when you get cars travelling over that, especially heavy trucks, the bridge will move. And so if you just imagine a deck, and if you're on a concrete bridge or a motorway, you can have quite big sections of concrete, and there's always expansion joints in there that are designed in. So in this case, where every deck sits, there's going to be a little bit of movement between them. So the design actually has allowing a little bit of movement, and in between, so there's actually each plank itself has got a sealed with chip seal, and there's a sealant on that edge joint, and then it's all surfaced with a chip seal. So what you see at the surface is that chip seal has, at each plank, there's a little bit of movement there. It's impossible to not have a movement there and have something apparent at the surface. So we've got, as far as I understand, and this has been pretty carefully looked after, that the movement has been constrained as much as it can. The right product has been used in terms of the surfacing. If the bridge was strong enough, we would have used concrete panels, but it's just not. So we're just dealing with what we've got here. So we've got no concerns about the structural integrity. We, at this point, have no concerns that there was any issue in terms of the design or the construction, and it's being managed. But we can understand why people are asking a question about why we're getting this. So I think actually, we need to put some information together to explain to people, including yourselves, what's actually going on. So that's pretty much the current situation. We won't be able to get our final coat on until summer anyway, just because of the time of the year. But that's, I think it's more about us making that information available to the public.
Secondary, just.
And one of the comments that I saw was also about that. Will we remove those speed humps? Are they still there? Like on the other side? Are they part of the design?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. We put them in there to slow traffic. We should be able to remove them, from what I understand, but I will confirm that. They were put in as a measure to slow the traffic before the repair. So look, we can answer that as well as part of information.
I was just following on from Councillor Fulton's questions around the comms. I've certainly seen some of the commentary on the local community pages, so I just wonder around the comms, just to hear Councillor Redmond refer to it, he may have, around just making sure that we get some an update out there that clearly explains what we're doing, the time frame for the extra code, the issue of the joins, and because with the absence of that, people are off on their own tangent on it. The other is we've also got a very good publication out there, and I wonder, it's not very expensive to put an ad version there, whether we should do that as well, just so we keep on top of it. It's called the Oxford Observer. My suggestion would be we should look at that before. It just gets ahead of it, and I'm sure Bruce and Emily that run that publication wouldn't have a problem with that.
Just a question from myself to Kerry. Is the product they're using between the gaps now inferior to what it used to be? Because they never used to have this problem on bridges, and a different bridge, the motorway bridge over the Waimakariri, the main new one's done. Even the joints on those are a lot noisier and abruptive than the previous joint. So is the materials being used now of a lesser standard for expansion and contraction than what used to be out there?
So the expansion joints that you get on a concrete bridge like the motorway, the reality is they were better than they have been in the past. But they do just serve the same function. I can't tell you why you get a bit noisy or don't get quite the same ride quality. This bridge is something completely different. And if we were building a new bridge from scratch, we wouldn't build it in the way that it's been built. It was originally built for a railway bridge well over 100 years ago. But it's actually very fit for purpose in terms of the structure is still sound. It's just really hard maintaining a deck on that bridge, given its characteristics. So in terms of the joint, we've basically got each of these planks butted up against each other, and so there's no concern about the actual structure of it, and it's try to put a product over there that's going to be flexible enough so that it maintains its integrity without having a rougher surface from the motorist's point of view. But they're quite different situations. But really, the technology keeps moving. These planks weren't available in the past, and they are now. They have been used successfully elsewhere, including on the Rakaia Gorge Bridge on the road there. So you can't compare a motorway expansion joint or a joint like we've got on the Ashley Bridge, which is a concrete structure, to this kind of joint.
Thank you. No more questions? Thank you, Councillor Redmond. Right, so we move on to drainage, stop water, three waters. That's myself. Right, the UV treatment installation project is progressing relatively well. The new UV unit at Pegasus water treatment plant is installed and currently being commissioned at this stage. The works at the other sites of Darnley, Pracky, South Belt and Domain will not be completed until September 24. The water regulators are visiting Pegasus water treatment plant in July as part of the Woodend Pegasus chlorine exemption application to have a review on that. Wastewater, Featherston Ave, Karaki sewer, lateral and manhole repairs works are complete and will be monitored in the next spring tide and heavy rainfall events. Drainage, Cones Road drain upgrade is practically complete, with the remaining reinstatement work to be completed by the end of June, which might be past that date. Walsh Road drainage improvements are almost complete. The culvert was successfully installed without the need for sheet piling and dewatering. That was a good cost saving year. Greensboro culvert and Tuahibi has been installed and the downstream drain regarding and widening will be complete by the end of the month. And Cam River heavy maintenance works are complete, and that's the mainly the tree removal and there's a bit of willows and everything growing there. So that's it from me. Any questions? No questions, so we'll move on to solid waste. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of you will be aware that I received an email just before this meeting to advise that Gareth James passed away last night, this morning. As most will be aware, he was an employee here. He was manager of services, and back in those days, services also covered C&R. So he had quite a big portfolio here before being attracted by Dennis O'Rourke and a few others into Christchurch to create the regional landfill here in Cape Verde. Gareth won numerous awards for his engineering skill and expertise, and it was my privilege to work with him over a number of years during that period of construction, and then ultimately on the board of Translate. So I've got no doubt the Mayor will probably make some acknowledgement at our next meeting, so I just thought I'd give you an update on that sad piece of news. So most of you will be aware the budget announcement, the changes to the Waste Disposal Levy and Waste Minimisation Act. Revenue from the Waste Disposal Level Government Contestable Fund will be spent on a wider range of projects in addition to minimising waste projects that support the environment, climate change mitigation and adaptation, such as restoring freshwater catchments and freshwater improvements. Help cover the costs associated with disposal of waste generated by emergencies, such as a cyclone, and to clean up contaminated sites and landfills vulnerable to severe weather events. The landfill disposal levy will continue to be increased by $5 a tonne from 25 to 27. At this stage, councils will still receive 50% of the levy revenue, but that will be reviewed when the Act is reviewed, so that's a space to watch in the future. There won't be any impacts on the 24-25 budgets from this change. The staff will work through these as part of the annual planning process. On Monday, 17th June, which is Global Garbage Man Day, garbage man, it's country garbage person, I didn't write it. Our comms team put out a media story, a video about a day in the life of a collection truck driver, which puts a face to the curbside collection drivers. Leanne Winter has been driving the recycling truck for many years, and she has highlighted the challenges and good things about collecting bins in waimakariri. So a reasonably short report this time around, Mr. Chair. Things are busy as always in solid waste, but nothing of a very concern to the committee.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Mills.
Not actually a question, but I wondered, Robbie, I haven't had a chance to catch up with you since the conference.
I've got notes on the conference.
Okay. But would it be appropriate for me to give a bit of an update, having attended the Waste Men's Conference?
Take a few minutes, so yeah, go for it.
There are some things I'll catch up with Robbie about anyway, but yeah, because Robbie was unable to go, I got to go to the Waste Men's Conference last month, which I found really excellent. There was a lot of conversation about a lot of different things, but chiefly there was mostly discussion about construction and demolition waste, composting, circular economy, waste reduction, lots of chat about removing food waste from landfills, the waste minimisation levy, what was going to happen with that, and various projects, concepts, innovations. I've talked to a few people about a couple of different things that I've brought home with me, but mostly just best practice and what others are doing, and also the Resource Management Act reforms, but with a waste minimization lens, which was an interesting way to look at it. But one thing I would like to address, I suppose, is that the keynote was Minister Simmons, who is the Minister for the Environment, and she came and addressed the conference about various things pertinent to waste minimization. So she talked about strengthening national recycling infrastructure, support to be given to vulnerable landfills, emissions reductions within the parameters of cost of living crisis. Talked about encouraging innovation and private sector involvement with a framework to support where it's sensible. And as far as the 2030 requirement for councils to provide food scrap collection in all cities, they're still considering rollout issues, affordability and whatnot. So that's kind of just being looked at this point. As far as the container return scheme, which has been talked about for the last couple of years, they are still looking for feedback from the sector. I've seen some rather innovative things I've never actually imagined would exist that made it seem a little bit more simple and straightforward actually than how I had imagined a container return scheme would have looked. But yeah, we'll just leave that with them and see what they come up with. But yeah, I think a lot of people are keen to see that happen. There was talk of further product stewardship, innovations with timber and problematic plastics, again, construction and demolition waste in those vulnerable landfills. There is a fund that's been established for vulnerable landfills, but she made this announcement before the budget came out, and it turns out that there's like $6 million in it. Woo! So I think that's all going to the West Coast. And organic waste, including timber and whatnot, is also an important thing they're looking at. And as far as plastic waste goes, New Zealand is joining in a world treaty to tackle global scale plastic pollution. And they want to reduce domestic waste, improve recycling, and get that whole product stewardship scheme thing kept coming up in her chat. Talked about contaminated site remediation and proactive support for that remediation. And apparently $6.6 million of that fund's already been awarded, and they just want to assess sites so that the government knows how much support actually is needed. They did also encourage councils to make submissions to the emissions reduction plan 2. And Waste Mins has asked for a moratorium on waste to energy incineration plants, but there are other forms of that technology, like Golden-based cements use of tires, for instance. The waimakariri waste to energy project is on hold by the Environment Court by request of the minister who called it, so they're certainly having a second look at that. Not really sure about whether that's a good thing for New Zealand or not. They want some more information. And of course, the Waste Minimization Act, there are some proposed changes in that, as I think Robbie just alluded to before as well. Changes suggested in the frameworks and the regulations, controls and targets, end-of-life product provisions. Again, that goes back to that product stewardship. And also, they are looking to include the Litter Act in the Waste Minimization Act whenever they rejig it, because it was done in 1979. It needs a little bit of an update, but yeah, she wasn't able to talk dollars at the time because she spoke on a Tuesday and the budget came out on Thursday. So, but I just wanted to do my.
Thank you for that update. Thank you. Right, so now we move on to transport. Gordon.
Thank you. Firstly, just to like Councillor Bryan, yes, we will acknowledge that at the next council meeting, I was to go and see Gareth yesterday with Mayor Phil, but we did get a message later in the afternoon that his health had taken a turn. So, like yourself, we will acknowledge that appropriately. But that service, broadly, not only to our district but more broadly to Waste and to Cape Valley, was extraordinary. So, and I know that the board have acknowledged that with the naming up here, so we'll have some more to say at our next meeting. But sad day, loss of someone that's significant. And Nikki, really great to hear around your report back from Waste Mins. I very early in my term as a councillor had the fortune of going to Rotorua and I similarly really enjoyed it, and a lot of that learning I found very influential in my thinking around waste, so just to acknowledge that. Just a couple of things from a transport perspective. Obviously we've still got, there's announcements in confirming around coming, I believe, on the William bypass, so it's from our perspective, I think that project will move at pace. I believe that the government has certainly signalled it's one they want to get on with, and I understand NZTA have been given that instruction. What's remaining there is around the status of the William safety improvements that actually were needed regardless. So we keep asking NZTA for an update on that, maybe to have clarity. My view would be that with the bypass proceeding quicker, that a lot of those probably will not occur now, but we'll wait to have that confirmed. I'm not upset that the wire rope barrier at either end will not be there, because I just didn't think that that was necessary and was going to narrow the carriageway and make it almost impossible for residents to access their properties. So that's one that I won't be upset to see disappear. But the safe crossing at Pegasus remains a priority, and that linkage. We have certainly and will continue to advocate for walking and cycling to be connected, and it would be a shame if it wasn't included as part of the consideration of the bypass. My understanding is there is being considered an overpass at Pegasus intersection, so I think it makes sense. It wouldn't have an impact on the through traffic, but until we see the final designs on that, not clear. But Jared and the team will be hopefully connected in with that, because it's an important project for this district, and one that I think in the present climate we've done very well, and I think our Member of Parliament can take a large thanks for that. He pushed it very hard, and we've supported that as well, so it'll be really great to see that completed. There's been a bit of discussion in the media around tolling. We were at Jeff and I were at the infrastructure symposium last week, which LGNZ organised. It was the Minister, I thought Minister Chris Bishop gave a very good speech, actually, where he indicated the government's desire to get on with it, and one of the thinking he just did raise was the topic of tolling. So there will be, one would hope, some consultation on what is meant by that and what is being considered, but it seemed to me that there was a general philosophy of that will be applied to all projects. So whether that will apply to the William bypass, yet to have defined, but I'd have thought with the announcement of that and others that it may be a project that isn't considered in that. But for further forward projects, if that's well signalled, then that's, I think, probably fairly fair. Whether you have a view on tolling or otherwise, the philosophy is around getting infrastructure built, and the government have signalled that they certainly want to see that, but there needs to be a partnership in order to achieve it. There's been some talk around the emergency works, which we have been eligible for, and without that would be a significant challenge to our council that experiences, as we all know, regular weather events. I realise that there's a challenge for the government in that as well, because it's not something they can easily budget for. I was in a discussion a few weeks ago with NZTA officials through the LGNZ Transport Forum, and I did suggest that maybe as a mechanism, a model along the lines of what EQC do, which is to set aside perhaps it could be levy based, chopped up by the government, but there is a fund being built up so that in the event of these the need, there is at least a mechanism to support councils. To remove that altogether would be a real hardship for communities. I know they're not proposing to remove it altogether, but the level of subsidy could be achieved. Well, that would be a real hardship in our district. It's several millions of dollars that we've needed to find at short notice, and look, we're thankful that we're in that position from time to time where we can do that, but not all councils are like that. And if you think of small councils up north, particularly Wairoa, they had to find $1 million because the contractors weren't being paid because of the slowness of process. These are small contractors they need to support. $1 million was a lot of money for that small council to find. I realise things have since caught up, but that's the reality of what people experience on the ground, and the level that community up there, as we all know, has experienced, and I've seen it firsthand, it's devastating. So there does, I realise it's not the only thing, but that does need to be adequately considered, and because that being removed without another viable proposal is going to leave communities like our own significantly exposed. But that's an update for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Question. Got questions from Councillor Mealings?
Sorry, just a quick question. Dan, just regarding the idea of tolling on the Woodend bypass, have they considered, I suppose, when you talk about a toll road, that's because it's giving you a quicker, more efficient route. This isn't actually improving the speed or efficiency of the route, it's actually taking cars out of the middle of a town, and if people have to pay a toll to go on the new road, they're going to go on the old road, and it's not going to, they may as well not build it because the whole point is to get people out of Woodend.
Agree, and I personally think that the project should be exempt for that reason, but it was messaged the other day as the Minister's thinking, as it just indicated, I'm not clear where he's at with that, but we will certainly, if once we have the detail of that thinking, and if the bypass is to be considered in that vein, and I don't know whether it will or won't, we will certainly be advocating our strong.
Thank you. Councillor Regan, question.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, was there any update on the possibility of including a cycle lane in conjunction with the bypass?
Yeah, I covered it just there to say that that is a project that we're advocating for. I know that through David Hill, North Canterbury News, I had a discussion with him the other day. I know he is following that up as well. My understanding is if we have a visit from the Minister in the not too distant future, certainly a matter I will continue to raise with him as well. My understanding is that the local MP expressed strong support, that it would make sense to have it included as part of it. So we will continue to advocate for that. I know Jared and the team are aware of that in any project work. It's a no-brainer to have it done as part of that. When we look at the success of the Northern Corridor, adding a linkage on the side there makes absolute sense. Also, to address the existing deficiency in Woody now, I'd also like, Pegasus roundabout, I'd also like, and I don't want to confound matters, but I want to get some things over the line, but the State Highway Bridge at Waikuku is also deficient, and it desperately needs, I think, a clip-on to ensure that that's safe across the area. Tourism from cycling, not only tourism but just safety in general, that in itself should be persuasive enough for those to be included.
Thank you. Right, so we'll move on to questions and standing orders. I have none, so no urgent general business. So we'll move on to matters to be considered with public excluded. We've got a move in public excluded. Moved Councillor Edmonds, seconded Councillor Mealings. I'll put that all in favour. Carried. Thank you. So we'll move into public excluded. So we'll just give a little bit of time to get set up.